I sat in that tiny classroom staring down at the test paper that lay flat before me. My chest tightened and my throat went dry. The red ink marks slashed across the page. I had failed again, and everyone knew it. The clock ticked above me, each second louder. It felt as if the whole world leaned in. I could hear the whispers of my classmates. They were subtle, but they pierced my ears. Why me? Why do I always stumble here? I gripped my pencil so tightly it snapped. The sound made heads turn in my direction. My face flushed, burning with heavy shame. I lowered my eyes, pretending to be fine, but inside I was collapsing piece by piece. 3 years, 4 tutors, dozens of late nights, hundreds of hours staring at glowing screens, apps that promised miracles, but gave none. My parents had spent money we didn't have. My friends moved ahead while I stayed back. Every failure carved me deeper, emptier. What's wrong with me? I asked myself again. Why does everyone else learn faster than me? The room shrank. The air felt heavy, cruel. Each breath dragged like weights in my chest. The teacher's voice faded into meaningless noise. All I could hear was my own shame roaring. You'll never be good enough, it whispered. I imagined myself from the outside, tiny, a small figure drowning in an endless ocean. No one could see how hard I was trying. They only saw the marks that betrayed me. They saw failure written in my very skin. 3 classmates glanced my way, then laughed. Were they laughing at me? I wasn't sure, but in that fragile moment it felt true. I pressed my palm against the desk, shaking. I wanted to scream, to break, to disappear. Yet I stayed still, trapped by invisible chains. The teacher handed back another paper. It wasn't mine, but I already knew. When my paper slid onto my desk, I didn't need to check the number written. I already knew the result, already felt it. The red number stared back at me coldly, and my heart sank into its familiar pit. All those nights, all that effort, wasted. I thought of the books I had memorized, the notes stacked in piles around my room, the endless cycle of trying and failing again. Is this all I'll ever be? The sound of pencils scratching filled the air. Pages turned. Murmurs rose. A chair shifted. But I was frozen, staring at my disaster. I wanted to believe tomorrow would be better. But deep down, I knew tomorrow was cruel. Tomorrow only carried more of the same. And then something inside me whispered clear. Not loud, not sharp, but steady, unshakable. You're doing it all wrong. Start again. I looked up, startled by the thought. It wasn't from the teacher, not a friend. It was from within, a voice I'd buried. The room blurred and I clenched my fists. And that's when I realized I was wrong. When I first dreamed of learning English, it felt like stepping into a brighter world. I imagined myself speaking with confidence. I saw doors opening, chances multiplying fast. It felt like life could finally change for me. I would sit in front of a small screen, watching movies late into the quiet night. I'd mimic the actors, repeating every line. I thought if I copied them, I'd be fluent. It looked so easy for them. Why not me? At first, it was magical, even beautiful. The rhythm of the words, the sharp sounds. I felt goosebumps, as if I was touching a world larger than the one I had known. Hope filled my chest like a sudden fire. Then came the first crash of reality. One day, I tried to speak in public. The words came out twisted, broken, wrong. The shopkeeper stared at me, confused. Behind me, 2 boys began to giggle. My tongue felt like it was made of stone. I wanted to disappear right there, vanish. Why couldn't my mouth match my mind? Still, I didn't give up immediately. I convinced myself it was just nerves. Tomorrow will be better, I promised. But Tomorrow brought more humiliation, and slowly my fire began to fade. One night, I practiced a phrase for hours. I need a bus ticket. Simple, clear, but when I spoke, it came out twisted. The driver laughed, repeating my mistake. His laughter echoed for days inside me. It wasn't just the words, it was me. Every syllable felt like a mirror cracking. I saw myself breaking with every attempt. I thought, maybe I'll never belong here. Maybe this dream was never meant for me. And yet, deep down, I kept chasing it, like rain falling endlessly against glass. I pressed forward, knowing I was breaking. I wanted to believe effort was enough. But effort alone was eating me alive. One moment still makes me laugh and ache. In class, I wanted to say, I am full. But instead, I said loudly, I am full. The room exploded with uncontrollable laughter. I forced a smile, but inside I crumbled. That mistake haunted me for weeks. Every time I opened my mouth, I froze. Every laugh, every smirk played on repeat. I began to fear even simple greetings. I'd rehearse hello 10 times in my head. Still, it came out stiff, robotic, lifeless. People looked away, unimpressed, bored. Why do I always sound like a stranger? Nights became my only escape, my refuge. I'd sit by the window, rain tapping gently. The piano from a neighbor drifted faintly. I closed my eyes and imagined a future where words flowed like rivers. But when I opened my mouth each morning, the rivers dried up into broken silence. The dream always slipped through my hands. The more I tried, the more I stumbled, and every stumble made me feel smaller. I asked myself a question again and again. Is there even a method that truly works? Not the apps, not the books, not the tutors. Something that could rescue someone like me. Or was I just destined to fail forever? The question clawed at my chest nightly. I searched online, scrolled endless forums. Each promise looked shiny, but all failed. I stared into the mirror, lips trembling. Why can't you get it right? I whispered. My reflection looked like a stranger to me. I wondered if I'd ever escape that prison. The prison of knowing, but never expressing. I kept walking this path blindly, brokenly, chasing shadows, falling into deeper holes, hoping, yet fearing hope itself more each day, until one moment came, silent but deadly, and it changed the way I saw everything. Because little did I know back then, the answer wasn't what I expected at all. It wasn't simple, kind, or forgiving to me. It was far, far harsher than I imagined. I once believed learning English was simple. Just memorize words, study grammar, repeat. That's what every book and teacher said. Flashcards stacked, rules underlined in red. But the truth was nothing like the promise. For years, I drowned in endless vocabulary, lists of words that meant nothing to me. I'd memorize them at night, forget by dawn. The cycle repeated until I felt like a fool. Why doesn't my brain hold anything inside? I downloaded every app that claimed success. Little animations told me, great job, daily. But the words never left the screen. When I tried to speak, silence betrayed me. The gap between effort and result was cruel. My room became a graveyard of notebooks, pages filled with grammar rules and charts. I read them over and over without end, but in real life, my tongue stayed frozen. The grammar never left a page alive. At night, I sat in a dimly lit room. The glow of my phone burned my eyes. Another YouTube hack played on repeat. Learn English in 30 days, the video said. But 30 days passed and nothing changed. I was the same, silent, lost, ashamed. Each video promised shortcuts. None delivered. How many more lies will I swallow? Sometimes I'd walk alone in the evening, footsteps echoing against the empty street. I'd whisper words to myself in the dark. but they always sounded stiff, unnatural. I felt like a ghost mimicking the living. The isolation became heavier each year. Friends advanced, speaking more fluently. I sat quiet, pretending not to care. But deep inside, I was drowning in envy. Why does everyone else move ahead but me? The harshest truth hit me slowly, painfully. It's not just about words and grammar. I was learning the language the wrong way. I treated it like math, a set of rules. But language is alive, not numbers on a page. No one told me that at the start. Instead, I wasted years on false methods. Each failure planted doubt in my chest. I thought, maybe I'm just not capable. Maybe my brain is broken beyond repair. The darkness inside whispered, give up. And some nights, I almost believed it, but some spark in me refused to die. I started noticing patterns in my struggle, mistakes so common, yet never addressed, like chasing perfection before speaking a word, or thinking fluency comes from endless lists. These traps captured millions, including me. I realize most learners fall into them. We focus on quantity, not connection. We memorize words without real context. We bury ourselves in grammar nightmares. We chase shiny apps over human practice. We forget language is sound, not theory. I was guilty of every single mistake, and it nearly destroyed my confidence forever. There were nights I'd cry silently in bed, my pillow wet with tears no one saw. I wondered if this pain was punishment. Punishment for dreaming too big, too far. Why did I ever believe in this dream? The room grew darker as months slipped by. My sighs echoed louder than my own words. I could hear my failures in every silence. Shadows stretched across the walls, mocking me. I felt smaller with each passing evening. Yet even in despair, a strange thought rose. What if the problem wasn't me at all? What if the system itself was broken? Could it be that my struggle wasn't unique? That millions failed for the same reasons? I started questioning everything I was taught. And in that doubt, a door slowly opened. A door to something entirely unexpected. Then one day, while scrolling half asleep, I stumbled across a method unknown to me. It wasn't grammar drills or endless apps. It was raw, simple, human, and terrifying. A method that flipped my world upside down. But here's the cruelest twist of it all. Adopting that method wasn't simple or kind. It wasn't easy. It nearly broke me inside. Mentally, emotionally, I hit my deepest wall. And that's where the real story begins. It began quietly, almost like an accident. I wasn't searching, not that night at least. But a phrase on a random forum caught me. Stop studying English. Start living in it. I read it twice, then a third time slowly. At first, I laughed at how absurd it felt. How can someone live inside a language? It sounded like another empty promise. Another shiny lie to break me again. But a seed was planted deep inside me. The next morning, I couldn't shake it off. I opened a notebook, staring at the page. I wrote, what if I stopped studying words? My pen trembled, but the thought stayed. What if I tried something completely new? The idea was terrifying yet magnetic. Instead of rules, I would chase real life. Instead of flashcards, I'd chase experience. I thought, could this finally work for me? Hope battled doubt inside my chest fiercely. Part of me whispered, don't be a fool. Another voice whispered, what if it's true? For once, I decided to listen to hope. So I started small, tiny steps each day. I played a movie without any subtitles. The first 10 minutes were absolute chaos. My head spun. Words flew like wild birds. But then one phrase clicked inside me. It wasn't everything, just a single line. But I understood it without translation. The joy hit me like sunlight breaking in. I replayed the moment, smiling to myself. Maybe I'm not as broken as I thought. From that night, my routine transformed. I filled my mornings with English podcasts. I read simple books out loud to myself. I forced my world to echo with a sound. Immersion became my lifeline to progress. At first, I resisted. Old habits fought back. The voice inside said, "Go back to rules. Write your grammar drills. Memorize more." But each time I listened, I felt empty. Each time I resisted, I felt alive instead. I chose immersion again and again. It was clumsy, messy, even frustrating. But something real was growing inside me. Weeks passed, and impossible happened. I spoke to a stranger at a coffee shop. I stumbled, but he understood me fully. My heart nearly burst out of my chest. That moment became my first real victory. I rushed home, grinning like a child. I wrote it down in my notebook quickly. Today I spoke. Today I was understood. The ink bled from my shaking hand, but the words felt stronger than ever. Still, fear never left me completely. Every win was followed by doubt's shadow. What if you relapse? What if you fail? The thought circled me like a predator. Can I really hold on to this progress? But every small step pushed me further. I could catch jokes in movies sometimes. I could order food without freezing inside. Each win was sunlight through the blinds. Each win pulled me closer to the dream. There were nights I tested myself alone. I'd sit in silence, speaking into the air, recording my shaky voice on my phone. When I played it back, I cringed deeply. But also, I heard clarity between cracks. Small, fragile clarity. But it was there. For the first time, I saw a new self. A self that could actually grow and bloom. Yet even as I tasted these new victories, fear of collapse hunted me constantly. What if this is just temporary? I thought, what if tomorrow I forget everything again? What if I'm fooling myself with false hope? Still I pushed. Still I built daily habits. I wrote my feelings in English each night. Messy, ungrammatical, but alive on paper. Each word carried a piece of my soul. And slowly, it felt like freedom at last. But freedom comes with a hidden cost. The closer I came to fluency, the more my greatest weakness stared me in the face. It wasn't vocabulary. It wasn't grammar. It was my confidence, the one I never had. Because soon, my little victories at home would no longer be enough to sustain me. I had to face the world in full daylight. And then, as if the universe was testing me, an opportunity appeared out of nowhere. An opportunity so big, I froze instantly. My heart pounded. My hand shook badly. I knew everything was about to change. And then, I faced the biggest challenge yet. My confidence was about to be tested. Tested in a way I had never imagined. I felt the weight of destiny in that moment, and I couldn't turn back anymore. The cafe was louder than I remembered it. Chairs scraping, voices clashing everywhere. The air thick with roasted beans and nerves. My chest tightened with every step inside. Why did I even agree to this meeting? I was supposed to join a group of locals. Just casual conversation, nothing serious. But nothing felt casual when fear suffocated. Their laughter rang sharp, echoing my dread. I wanted to run before anyone noticed me. I froze at the doorway, clutching my phone, scrolling messages I didn't even read. You can still escape, my mind whispered. Just one step backward, and I'd be safe. But another voice growled, "No, not today." I forced myself toward their table slowly. Each step felt like walking into fire. My heartbeat pounded so loud in my ears. I swear people could hear from afar. My palms were slick, my throat bone dry. "Hey, over here," someone waved at me. I smiled weakly, forcing my lips to move. The group of four welcomed me warmly. but I could barely hear their names. The storm in my head drowned everything. As I sat, words bounced around the table. Stories, jokes, overlapping conversations. Their voices moved too fast, colliding hard. I caught fragments, then lost them instantly. This is impossible. I can't keep up. The fear dragged me backward in time. Flashbacks of every failure struck at once. The classroom humiliation, the blank stares, the times people laughed at my mistakes. Each memory pressed heavy on my chest. Suddenly, one of them turned to me. "So, what do you think?" she asked. My body froze like stone under spotlight. Dozens of eyes burned holes in my mind. My voice trembled before words even came. Would all those hours of study finally pay? Or would I collapse like I always had? This was the moment I dreaded for years. I opened my mouth, air trembling inside. The first word cracked like broken glass. The second tangled itself in my throat. I saw confusion flicker across their eyes, and shame swallowed me whole instantly. I wanted the floor to open beneath me. Why am I still failing after all this? Why can't I just speak like everyone else? One of them leaned closer, encouraging me. "It's okay, take your time," she said kindly. Her words felt like lifeboats in a storm. But my mind screamed, "They're just polite. They don't really believe I can do this." I forced out a broken sentence somehow. The grammar was twisted, the rhythm weak. But my meaning was there. For a second, they actually understood me. And they nodded, waiting for me to go on. That tiny spark lit something inside, like a match in complete darkness. My voice shook, but I continued anyway. Every phrase felt like a mountain climb. Every pause, a chance to fall and fail. But step by step, the message escaped. Not perfect, not fluent, but alive. For the first time I was in the fight. The fear didn't vanish. It roared louder, but I chose not to obey it this time. Instead, I leaned into the chaos. They laughed, not at me, but with me. One even repeated my words kindly. Their patience softened the sharp edges. It wasn't flawless. It wasn't easy, but it was real, painfully real. Still, deep inside, the doubts clung tight. What if this is just luck? I thought, what if next time I collapse again? The uncertainty gnawed at my stomach. Hope and despair wrestled inside of me. The noise of the cafe blurred and bent. Every laugh, every word shook my soul. The walls seemed closer, lights harsher. I thought I might crumble any second. But then something unexpected happened. They leaned closer, eager to hear me. Not out of pity, but genuine interest. Their eyes didn't carry judgment at all. Their faces weren't cruel, but patient. And for once, I didn't feel alone. It hit me like lightning in that instant. The challenge wasn't the language itself. It was surviving the storm inside my head. It was fighting fear, not grammar rules. It was claiming space for my own voice. I kept speaking, even when words broke, even when sentences fell apart halfway. Every attempt made me lighter inside, like chains loosening link by link. I wasn't drowning anymore. I was swimming. But just as I felt the weight lifting, a new twist slammed into me suddenly. One of them asked me a deep question. "So, tell me, why did you start learning?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes curious. My mind went blank, utterly frozen. This wasn't a simple yes or no reply. This was personal, vulnerable, dangerous. I felt the world slow down around me. The cafe faded. Voices turned echoes. It was just me, her, and that question. My lips parted, breath shaking inside me. And everything changed, but not as I expected. The next day felt strangely different inside me, like something invisible had shifted overnight. The fear wasn't gone, but it was softer now. The memory of that cafe stayed in my chest. And for once, it didn't only carry shame. I walked through the streets as the sun dipped. Shadows stretched long across the pavement. The city glowed gold in the evening light. And inside me, a question kept burning. What if I really can do this after all? I decided to try again, but this time freer. No hiding, no waiting for perfection anymore. I entered a small bookstore near the square. The owner smiled, greeting me in English, and somehow I smiled back with courage. Our conversation began with something simple. Books stacked on the counter. Titles I knew. I asked about his favorite, words flowing out. Not perfect, not rehearsed, but alive, real. He answered, and I actually understood him. That moment hit me like thunder inside. The sounds weren't just noise anymore. They connected. They carried meaning clear. For the first time, I didn't feel lost. For the first time, I belonged in it. The talk lasted longer than I expected. Questions, answers, laughter, little pauses. Every sentence felt like a victory earned. Every nod from him felt like validation. I was having conversation. Finally real. I almost laughed right there from disbelief. Is this really happening to me now? Me. The one who always froze in silence? The pride surged, mixed with pure relief. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was speaking. Walking out. The streets looked brighter. The setting sun painted the city in fire. And inside, I felt taller than ever before. Every step carried new energy, new strength. This was the breakthrough I prayed for. I realized something crucial in that moment. It was never about hours chained to grammar. It wasn't about memorizing endless lists. It was about small daily battles won. It was about practicing where it mattered. Perseverance kept me moving through storms. But perseverance alone wasn't enough. I had wasted months on the wrong things. Reading without speaking. Memorizing rules. Studying without daring to use the words. What changed everything was mindset itself. Shifting from fear to courage, one step. Allowing mistakes to exist, not to kill me. Choosing progress over perfection each time. That was the real difference, the secret key. I thought about learners I had known. So many stuck, repeating the same cycles. They worked hard but stayed in silence. They chased perfect and lost their voice. And I suddenly saw why most people fail. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't intelligence. It was fear. Fear of sounding foolish. Fear of failing in front of others' eyes. That fear became the real prison walls. And most never dared to break them. I whispered to myself walking that night. You broke them. You broke the walls. Tears burned hot behind my eyes then. It was joy, pride, and disbelief at once. I was free in a way I had never felt. The city skyline glowed as I looked up. Buildings lit against the fading sun. And it felt like the whole world widened. Like I had stepped into another universe. All because I dared to speak imperfectly. I carried that feeling home, holding tight. It was fragile like glass, yet powerful. I didn't want it to vanish overnight. I wanted to protect it, feed it, grow it, because I knew this was only the start. I stayed up late, journaling every detail. The sound of the owner's laugh, my words, the way sentences just came out at last. I wrote like someone starving for memory, as if proof would keep it real forever. That night, I slept lighter than ever before. Dreams full of conversations, unafraid. Dreams of laughter, connection, belonging. I woke the next morning still smiling, and the fire inside hadn't dimmed at all. But even in that joy, a shadow lingered, because deep down I knew the truth. Life rarely lets victories stay untouched. New tests always wait around the corner, and I could feel one coming closer. The breakthrough was real, undeniable, but it was also fragile, untested by storms. What if I lost it the next time I tried? What if this fragile hope shattered again? The thought clawed at the back of my mind, and I was right to fear it, because just as I felt safe, life threw me another curveball. A curveball that tested everything I thought I'd learned. The weeks after that moment felt unreal to me. Suddenly, conversations weren't walls anymore. Doors that once seemed locked swung open wide. I joined talks at work, even cracked small jokes. And people actually laughed, not out of pity. I remember one meeting, so clearly even now. Before, I used to shrink in silence, unnoticed. But that day, I raised my hand and spoke. The room fell quiet, waiting for my thoughts. And the words came out smooth, confident. When I finished, my manager nodded at me. "You explained that perfectly," he said aloud. The pride hit me harder than any applause. It wasn't just English. It was being respected. It was finally being seen as capable, equal, yet life didn't magically become flawless. There were still stumbles, awkward pauses, still days when my brain froze mid-sentence. I still mispronounced words at times, badly, and sometimes embarrassment burned inside me. But the difference now was everything. I no longer saw failure as final or fatal. I saw mistakes as part of the process. Proof that I was moving forward daily. Proof that I had courage to keep trying. Step by step, I built real friendships too. Not just polite nods, but real connection. I laughed late into the night with friends. Stories flowing, shared memories created. The kind of bonds I once envied in silence. One moment stays engraved in my memory. A friend turned to me during a party. "You know," she said with a warm smile, "it feels like you've always been like this. Like you've always belonged in our group." Her words nearly broke me into tears, because she never knew my past silence. She never saw the nights I cried alone. To her, I was simply part of the circle, and that was all I ever wanted to be. Of course, mastery didn't come overnight. It wasn't one sudden miracle, but layers. Daily practice, daily mistakes, daily wins. Slowly, the language became natural breath, but it never became effortless without effort. Looking back, I saw patterns I once missed. The truths every learner needs to understand. First, focus on using English, not just rules. Second, stay consistent, even when it's boring. Third, immerse. Surround yourself every day. It wasn't textbooks that saved me in the end. It was conversations, TV shows, real moments. It was daring to sound clumsy in real life. It was writing journals, talking to myself. It was turning English into my environment. Mindset, though, that was a real battlefield. Once I stopped fearing judgment, I grew fast. Once I gave myself permission to fail, I spoke. Once I saw mistakes as teachers, not enemies, everything about learning changed forever. I want to tell you this with brutal honesty. If you're chasing perfect grammar before speaking, you'll be trapped in silence for years. If you wait to feel ready, you'll never be. You grow only by jumping into the fire. I know that because I lived it every day. I wasted years hiding behind quiet study. And nothing changed until I face a storm. That's why I beg you, don't make my mistake. Don't fear mistakes. Fear silence instead. Now, when I walk the streets, I notice it. Tourists asking for directions, conversations. I jump in to help. I talk without thinking. It's almost funny how normal it feels now. Something once impossible now feels natural. Work improved. Friendships deepened. Even confidence outside of English grew. Because if I could conquer this mountain, what other fears might I conquer next? The thought lit fires inside me constantly. And yet, here's the truth I can't ignore. The journey doesn't have a finish line. Even now, mistakes sneak out of my mouth. Even now, I forget words mid-sentence. Even now, I stumble, awkward, embarrassed. But now I smile when it happens, because failure no longer owns me, because mistakes mean I'm still growing. And even now, I'm still learning, and sometimes I still fail. When I look back, the journey feels unreal now. From silence in classrooms to tears at night, from endless grammar books to empty progress, from freezing in fear to finally being heard. Every step carved into my memory forever. I remember the loneliness of not belonging, watching others laugh while I sat invisible, the shame of knowing words but failing to speak, the sting of laughter when my accent slipped, the nights I whispered English into darkness. Then came the breakthroughs I never expected, the first sentence I spoke without stuttering, the first smile from someone who understood, the first time English felt like freedom, not pain, moments small to others, but life-changing to me. But if you think this path was smooth, it wasn't. I failed more times than I can ever count. I quit, I doubted, I wanted to disappear. There were mornings I swore I'd never succeed. Yet somehow, I always tried one more time. And that one more time became the difference. Every mistake stacked up into something greater. Every failure became a stepping stone forward. The truth is, I never learned by avoiding pain. I learned by walking straight through it. If you think learning English is just about apps, you're already wasting years of your life. I wasted those years myself, lost in screens, repeating exercises, memorizing useless lists. And nothing changed until I lived the language. I immersed myself in conversations daily. I forced myself into real situations. I laughed at my own mistakes out loud. I wrote journals, talked to strangers, risked pride. I breathed English until it became part of me. Patience carried me when skill was not enough. Consistency built strength when talent failed. Risk gave me breakthroughs I could never plan. And failure taught me lessons books never could. These 4 pillars carried me to the other side. Still, even now, I'm not perfect in English, but I've learned perfection was never the goal. The goal was connection, courage, freedom. And here's the brutal truth no one admits. The truth most teachers will never tell you. The truth that changes everything you believe. The truth most fast English learners were just lucky and they didn't teach you what actually works.